The sun was dropping low over the Arizona desert highway, casting long shadows across the faded parking lot of a small roadside diner. Inside, truckers sipped their coffee, families finished their meals, and in a quiet corner booth sat a man most of them didn't even recognize at first glance, Steven Seagal. He wasn't dressed like a celebrity. No flashy clothes, no entourage, no cameras. Just a simple black jacket, dark sunglasses, and the calm presence he always carried. He had stopped for a late lunch during a long drive, enjoying the peace and anonymity. When he stepped outside, the scene changed instantly. A thunderous roar of motorcycle engines ripped across the parking lot. 5 bikers rumbled in like they owned the place, leather vests, beer on their breath, and the kind of attitude that promised trouble. Their leader, a tall, bulky guy with tattoos crawling up his neck, killed his engine last and swung his leg off the bike like he was stepping onto a battlefield. The moment he spotted Seagal walking toward his car, he smirked. "Look what we've got here, boys," he said loudly. "Old man Hollywood thinks he can walk through our lot." Seagal didn't react. He had dealt with far worse in his life. Real danger, real criminals. These bikers were just noise. He kept walking, minding his own business. But the biker stepped into his path. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he said, moving inches from Seagal's face. Seagal paused, not out of fear, but out of courtesy. "I don't want any trouble," he said calmly. The biker's grin widened. "That's so." Without warning, he reached out and slapped Seagal's cheek. Not hard enough to injure him, just hard enough to mock him, to humiliate him, to show off for his friends. The entire diner fell silent. Bystanders pressed against the windows. The other bikers laughed loudly, expecting the old man to back down, stumble, apologize, or simply walk away. But Steven Seagal didn't move. He didn't flinch. He simply looked at the biker, eyes steady behind his sunglasses. What happened in the next few seconds stunned every single person watching. The biker's palm had barely left Seagal's cheek when the parking lot shifted. The temperature didn't change, the wind didn't rise, but the energy, that invisible, unmistakable tension, thickened like desert dust before a storm. The biker chuckled, shaking his hand as if proud of himself. His friends roared with laughter, leaning against their bikes, slapping their thighs, pointing at Seagal like he was some old man who didn't know better than to cross their path. But inside the diner, the laughter fell into a stunned hush. Through the windows, families watched with wide eyes. A waitress covered her mouth. A trucker muttered, "That fool's got no idea who he just touched." Seagal stood still, the same way a mountain stands still while winds scream around it. Calm, centered. Silence wrapped around him. "Did you hear what I said?" The biker barked, suddenly irritated that Seagal wasn't reacting the way he expected. "I said, I heard you," Seagal replied softly. That was all. Just 3 words, spoken without anger, without fear. But the biker stepped back, just a fraction. Something about that calm voice, something about the way Seagal didn't move an inch, made him uneasy. But the uneasy feeling lasted only a moment. His ego swallowed it whole. "You think you're tough?" the biker snarled. "You think you can walk around here like some kind of big shot? You're in our parking lot. You show respect." Seagal tilted his head slightly. "Respect goes both ways," he said. The biker scoffed, spreading his arms wide. "You hear that, boys? Old man Gandhi wants to lecture me." Another biker shouted, "Give him another slap. Maybe he'll wake up." The leader grinned, stepping even closer. His breath reeked of cheap beer and arrogance. "You got a problem?" he taunted. Seagal didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence irritated the biker more than any comeback could have. The man shoved him, hard. Seagal rocked back half a step, not because he lost balance, but because he allowed the movement. He had learned long ago, give your opponent space, let him burn his own fuse. "You don't touch me," the biker growled. "You touched me first," Seagal replied simply. The biker blinked. The crowd blinked. One of the biker's friends muttered, "What's this guy's deal?" Seagal remained motionless, but the biker was far from done. He jabbed a finger into Seagal's chest. "Listen, old man. Don't do that," Seagal said quietly. This time, the biker did hear something new, steel under silk. A warning so soft yet so final that even the desert air seemed to pause. But pride is louder than reason. "Oh, tough guy now, huh?" the biker said, raising his hand again. "You want to go? Let's go? Let's." Before he could finish the sentence, people inside the diner burst through the doors. "Hey, stop. Leave him alone. Man, don't touch him again." The biker turned and barked at them. "Back off. This is between me and the grandpa." "Grandpa," one of the truckers shouted. "Do you even know who that is?" "Yeah," another man added. "You're about to get rearranged, son." But the biker waved them off. "He's nothing but a washed-up actor. All those movies. Fake. Hollywood garbage." Inside the diner, a teenager whispered, "Those are real martial arts. He did all that for real." But the biker didn't care. He reached out again, palm open, ready to slap Seagal a second time. His hand hovered just inches from Seagal's cheek. And for the first time, Seagal moved. Not fast, not dramatic, not aggressive, just a subtle shift. His foot angled slightly, his shoulders relaxed, his stance lowered. Anyone who knew martial arts could see it. He had positioned himself. The biker didn't notice. He lifted his hand higher. "You don't walk through my lot without showing." Seagal spoke softly, but every syllable carried weight. "Last chance. Don't touch me again." The biker laughed like a man too drunk on pride to see the cliff edge he's dancing on. "Oh, you're going to tell me what to do? You think you're—" Just then, another biker shouted, "Hey, he's Steven Seagal, man." The leader froze. "What? No, he ain't. That guy's dead or retired or whatever." A woman from the diner yelled, "That is him. I've seen all his movies." Another added, "He's a martial arts master. Don't you hit him." The biker's confidence flickered, but only for a moment. Then he snapped, "I don't care who he is." He lunged forward, hand raised. And that was the moment the world held its breath. Because what was about to happen wouldn't just be a reaction. It would be a lesson, a reminder, a demonstration of calm, controlled, unstoppable power. And it was coming in the next few seconds. The biker's hand hovered in midair, trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the kind of adrenaline that makes a man stupid. He was seconds away from striking Steven Seagal again, and everyone watching felt the danger swelling like a storm about to break. Inside the diner, customers had swarmed to the windows. Outside, families froze mid-step. Truckers paused beside their rigs. Even the wind seemed to quiet down, as if the entire desert wanted a front-row seat. Seagal didn't blink. He just watched the biker's arm lift higher, calm as a man watching leaves drift across a pond. But to anyone who knew real martial arts, his subtle adjustments spoke volumes. His balance was settled, his shoulders relaxed, his breathing locked into its practiced rhythm. He wasn't scared. He wasn't angry. He was simply ready. The biker didn't notice any of it. Pride had blinded him. "Don't walk away from me, old man," he shouted, fingers spreading wide for another slap. "You don't disrespect my crew." His friends cheered him on. "Teach him. Lay him out. Hit him harder this time." But a couple of them weren't cheering anymore. They exchanged glances, wary, sensing a shift they couldn't name. "Bro," one muttered quietly. "Just maybe back off. Something's not right." But the leader snapped, "Shut up. He's nothing." He wasn't listening. He couldn't listen. The humiliation of Seagal's calm refusal to react was eating him alive. He lunged forward. But before the slap could land, Seagal's hand lifted an inch. Just an inch. A soft, gentle rise, almost like he was reaching to adjust a collar. That single movement stopped the biker cold. Not physically, but mentally. A survival instinct buried deep in his brain screamed at him. "Something is very, very wrong." "Don't," Seagal whispered. The biker hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. A woman from the diner shouted, "He warned you. Walk away." An old man added, "Son, You have no clue who you're messing with. Even one of the younger bikers stepped forward. Boss, seriously, this ain't worth it. But the leader snarled, you all shut your mouths. I run this lot. He shoved Seagal with both hands. Hard. Seagal slid back a step, boots scraping lightly against the pavement, but his balance remained perfect. His eyes never left the bikers. That shove wasn't just aggression. It was permission. Now the fight wasn't about ego. Now it was self-defense. Seagal exhaled slowly. The biker didn't notice the subtle shift again. He stepped forward aggressively, fists clenching, preparing to throw a full punch this time. Something sloppy, wild, fueled by anger rather than skill. You're gonna learn not to talk back to me, he yelled, cocking his arm. The gathered crowd tensed. A mother pulled her child behind her leg. A group of teens backed away. Truckers crossed their arms, waiting. Even the bikers fell silent, unsure now, sensing the moment tipping into something inevitable. Then the biker swung. A clumsy, telegraphed punch, wide, heavy, slow by martial arts standards. A punch that could hurt a normal man. But Seagal wasn't a normal man. Before the biker's fist traveled even halfway, Seagal shifted. Just a simple sidestep, almost lazy. The biker's punch cut through empty air. He stumbled forward from his own momentum, eyes wide. What the? Seagal remained in the same calm state. But now his stance was unmistakable, centered, grounded, precise. The stance of someone who'd spent decades mastering the art of redirecting chaos. The biker recovered, frustrated and embarrassed. His friends looked nervous. Man, hit him, one yelled, but even he didn't sound confident. The biker gritted his teeth and charged again, this time with both hands, reaching to grab Seagal's jacket. He never made it. Seagal's left hand rose, fingers barely touching the biker's wrist, guiding it, redirecting it, while his right hand shifted behind the biker's elbow. It was Aikido in its purest form. Effortless, precise, beautiful. The biker's entire body twisted sideways, pulled by his own force. His boots lost grip, and he lurched forward uncontrollably. What the HEY? Before he could finish, Seagal moved again. A small pivot of his hip, a subtle drop of his weight, a controlled sweep of the biker's legs. It looked slow, but it happened faster than the crowd could process. The biker didn't fall. He flew. His body lifted off the ground, flipped sideways, and slammed onto the pavement with a heavy, echoing thud. Gasps exploded from every direction. One biker whispered, "Holy, what did he just do?" Another stepped back, eyes wide. That was like in the movies. People from the diner rushed out, nearly tripping over themselves to see what happened. The biker lay on his back, staring at the sky, the wind knocked out of him, completely stunned. Seagal didn't move toward him, didn't gloat, didn't taunt. He just stood there, breathing softly, ready in case anyone else tried something. And for the first time since the confrontation began, the parking lot went silent. Dead silent. Everyone knew. This wasn't over yet. The moment the biker hit the ground, a hush fell over the street. The thunder of engines faded. Conversations died mid-sentence, and every eye locked onto the man standing calmly in the center of it all. Steven Seagal, unmoved, breathing slow and steady as if nothing unusual had happened. But the biker crew hadn't fully processed what they just witnessed. The leader, still on his feet, though stunned, stared at his fallen friend, then at Seagal, then back again. His jaw tightened. That slap had been meant to humiliate, not to end in humiliation for their own man. A few of the other bikers dismounted their motorcycles, boots slamming onto the asphalt. Their heavy jackets creaked as they moved closer. The tension thickened like fog. But before any of them could take another step, an older man watching near the sidewalk suddenly gasped and pointed at Seagal. Wait a minute. Do you all know who that is?" People turned toward him. He took off his glasses, squinting, making sure his eyes weren't deceiving him. "That's Steven Seagal," he shouted. "The martial artist. The actor. The law enforcement guy." A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. No way. Seriously? I knew he looked familiar. Bro, that biker slapped Steven Seagal. Phone shot up into the air instantly. People hit the record button like their lives depended on it. The atmosphere completely shifted. This wasn't just some street altercation anymore. This was a legendary martial artist being confronted by a biker gang, and someone had just slapped him. The biker leader's bravado faded for a moment. His eyes widened slightly as he looked at Seagal with new recognition. He didn't want to admit it, but he suddenly understood why his friend was flat on the ground. But ego is a dangerous thing, and the leader had too much of it. He lifted his chin and barked, "I don't care who you are. You don't come at my crew." Seagal didn't flinch. He simply stood with that same unnerving stillness, hands relaxed at his sides, his face unreadable. There was no anger, just a calm confidence that made the bikers uneasy. Seagal spoke quietly. "You should walk away." The leader scoffed. "Or what? You gonna knock out all of us?" Seagal looked at him for a long moment, then took a single step forward. That one step sent the biker crew instinctively stepping back. But now the crowd was fully invested. Phones zoomed in. Whispered commentary filled the air. "This is gonna go viral. He's not even scared. Bro, why would you slap Steven Seagal of all people? These bikers are done." The biker on the ground groaned, finally regaining some consciousness. He blinked up at the circle of faces above him. "What happened?" he muttered. One of his friends leaned closer and whispered harshly, "You slapped Steven Seagal, idiot." The man froze. His eyes widened in horror as memories trickled back, his ego, his smirk, the slap, and then the world spinning. He stared at Seagal now with a mix of fear and regret. Meanwhile, the biker leader clenched his fists, trying to hold onto his pride. But inside, he could feel the pressure mounting. If he backed down now, he would look weak in front of his crew. If he fought, he had no idea what would happen. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. This guy seriously gonna fight Seagal? He should apologize while he still has teeth. No, keep recording. This is crazy. But then something shifted. A little boy from the crowd tugged at his mother's sleeve and asked loudly, "Mom, why are they trying to fight that man?" The mother whispered, "Because some people don't know when to stop." Seagal heard it. The biker leader heard it. And for a brief second, the leader's facade cracked. But pride is a powerful trap. He puffed his chest out and growled, "This doesn't change anything. You still disrespected us." Seagal's response was simple. "I didn't disrespect anyone. Your friend disrespected himself." The leader's face turned red. His hands curled into fists. Then, for the first time, Seagal shifted into a ready stance. Subtle, almost invisible, but deadly. Instantly, the entire crowd gasped. The biker leader swallowed hard, suddenly realizing exactly how bad this could get. He had pushed the wrong man, at the wrong time, and the wrong way. What happened next would change everything. The street felt like it was holding its breath. Steven Seagal stood calm, still, and silent. Yet somehow he radiated more danger than the entire biker crew put together. His eyes were half closed, studying every movement, every twitch of the leader's fists. He didn't need to talk. His presence alone shook the atmosphere. But the biker leader couldn't afford to back down. Not in front of his men, not in front of a crowd, and definitely not while phones were recording every second. Ego had him by the throat. He stepped forward, trying to regain dominance. "You think one lucky move makes you something special?" The leader growled. My guy held back. The crowd murmured, doubtful. Everyone had seen the truth. Seagal didn't attack. He simply redirected the slap. And the biker flew. Seagal tilted his head slightly, voice calm and steady. "One clear mind is stronger than 10 angry ones." The leader blinked, stunned by the quiet confidence. But then anger returned like fire. "Don't start with your Zen nonsense," he hissed. "You hit my friend. That means you hit my whole crew." Seagal's eyes narrowed, not out of fear, but out of disappointment. "I didn't hit anyone," he replied. He hit himself with his own aggression. A few people in the crowd stifled laughs. The biker leader snapped his head toward them, furious. The humiliation was piling up. The leader pointed at Seagal. "You're gonna apologize. Right now? Or we settle this our way." Seagal finally moved. Just a small shift of his stance, a tiny adjustment of his feet, but it melted the biker's confidence. He spoke slowly, each word heavy. "Respect is earned, not forced." The leader felt something primal inside him stir, fear. He was staring at a man who had spent decades mastering combat, a man who didn't posture, didn't shout, didn't need to prove anything. So the leader did the dumbest thing he could do. He lunged. The crowd gasped. The biker swung wildly, his fist cutting the air like a hammer, but Seagal barely tilted his body, letting the punch glide past him. Then, with the gentleness of someone closing a door, Seagal placed 2 fingers on the biker's wrist. Just 2 fingers. The leader's knees buckled instantly. He fell to the ground, face twisting in shock as pain shot through his arm. His friends froze, eyes wide. What did he? How is he? He's not even trying. But Seagal wasn't done. He applied just the slightest pressure, guiding the biker's arm downward, and the man collapsed fully to the pavement. The crew panicked. A few bikers rushed toward Seagal from behind, but he didn't even turn around. He simply stepped sideways, grabbed one man's jacket, and redirected him straight into the second biker. Bodies collided. Helmets clattered on asphalt. The crowd roared. Phones zoomed in. Kids screamed in excitement. Adults whispered, shocked. But Seagal was calm, almost bored. He raised one open palm to signal enough. "I don't want to hurt any of you," he said. The biker leader, still on his knees, swallowed hard, trapped between pain and humiliation. His voice cracked. What are you?" Seagal stepped closer. His shadow fell over the leader's face. "I'm someone who warned you to walk away." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The leader's bravado finally shattered. Sweat dripped down his temples. His breath trembled. 2 more bikers approached cautiously, less aggressive now, more desperate. "Look, man, we don't want trouble," one said. "Just let him go." For the first time, Seagal looked around at the entire group. "You think strength is shouting? Threatening people? Attacking without reason?" He shook his head. "Real strength is control. Discipline. Knowing when not to fight." The leader looked down, ashamed. Seagal released his wrist slowly. The man exhaled in relief and cradled his arm. The crowd was silent, hanging on every moment. Seagal's voice deepened. "You came here trying to intimidate me." He pointed toward the fallen biker who started the whole thing. "You slapped me to look powerful." Then he leaned slightly closer to the leader. "That wasn't power. That was insecurity." A collective "OHHHHH" erupted from the crowd. The leader's eyes widened, raw embarrassment washing over him. He finally broke. Okay, he muttered. "We're done. We're good." Seagal stepped back, giving him space. But before walking away, he left the entire street with one final line. One that would explode across the internet within hours. "Respect is something you give first. Then it returns to you." The crowd erupted in applause. The biker leader bowed his head, and Seagal walked away like a man who had just taught a masterclass, without throwing a single real punch. The street was still buzzing with adrenaline, the crowd electrified from the confrontation they had just witnessed. But now another layer began unfolding. Recognition, whispers, shock, and disbelief. The biker crew, recovering from their bruised egos and twisted limbs, finally started paying attention to the murmurs around them. A woman near the front gasped loudly. "Hold on, isn't that Steven Seagal? The Steven Seagal?" A teenager zoomed in on his phone. "Bro, it is him. Look at his face. That's Seagal. I'm telling you." Another man chimed in, shaking his head in disbelief. "You idiots just tried to fight a man who's trained with real masters all over the world." The biker leader's face drained of color. Up until now, he thought he was just facing a calm old guy with surprisingly fast reflexes. An unusual stranger, sure, but nothing more. Now, Reality hit him harder than any punch could. They had slapped, shoved, and tried to attack. Steven Seagal, one of the most recognizable martial artists and action icons on the planet. The leader muttered under his breath, "No, no, no, no. Tell me you're messing with me." But the crowd wasn't messing. Screens lit the street with Seagal's photos, side-by-side comparisons, movie clips, interviews, martial arts demonstrations. Every angle matched. Every detail lined up. One biker pulled out his phone, eyes wide. "Boss, look at this." He held up a clip of Seagal disarming attackers effortlessly. "It's the same moves, the same stance, everything." The leader swallowed hard. His pride, his ego, both shattered. Meanwhile, Seagal had stopped a few steps away. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't posing for videos. He simply stood with his hands loosely together, breathing slow, almost meditative. It was like he wasn't even part of the drama anymore. But the crowd was. People began cheering. "That's why you don't mess with legends." He told them to walk away. Man didn't even break a sweat. Phones pointed at the biker leader, who now looked like he wanted the earth to open and swallow him whole. One bold teenager shouted, "Hey, apologize to him. You slapped a martial arts master." The biker leader froze. The slap. He had forgotten about it in all the chaos. Now people around him were replaying it in slow motion, showing the slap, Seagal barely moving, and the biker being flipped with nothing more than a redirect. Humiliation washed over him again. One of his own crew whispered urgently, "We need to make this right. Now." Another nodded. "If this goes online, and it will, we're going to look like the dumbest gang on the planet." The leader hesitated. His ego fought him. But then he looked at Seagal, standing with that calm, almost disappointed expression. Not mocking, not superior, just quietly watching. Something inside the leader cracked. He walked forward slowly, holding his injured wrist, eyes lowered. His boots felt heavier with every step. The crowd quieted, waiting. Finally, he stopped in front of Seagal. He cleared his throat. "I didn't know who you were." Seagal looked him straight in the eyes. "You don't need to know someone's name to treat them with respect." The leader's breath hitched. He nodded slowly. "You're right." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. For the way we acted. For the slap. For everything." The words hurt more than Seagal's technique ever could. But somehow, they felt right. Necessary. Seagal didn't smile. But he did give the slightest respectful nod. Learning begins when pride ends. The leader blinked, absorbing the words like a punch to the chest. The rest of the biker crew shuffled awkwardly behind him, avoiding eye contact, each of them mumbling their own apologies. A few in the crowd clapped at the moment. The humility, the unexpected turn. Then something surprising happened. One biker, the one who had slapped Seagal earlier, stepped forward. His lip was cut, his pride shattered, but he found his voice. "I thought being tough meant looking down on people," he said quietly. "Guess I was wrong." Seagal finally spoke more gently. "True strength isn't loud. It's silent, controlled. Real power protects, it doesn't provoke." The entire street fell silent as the words sank in. Even the biker who slapped him nodded slowly, ashamed. "We appreciate the lesson," he murmured. Seagal simply replied, "Just learn from it." At that moment, a police car pulled up at the end of the street, responding to the commotion. Officers stepped out and instantly recognized Seagal. One of them called out, "Mr. Seagal? Everything okay here?" The bikers stiffened in terror. The leader looked like he was about to faint. But Seagal raised a hand calmly. "No trouble. We're all heading our own ways now." The officer nodded respectfully. "Understood." The bikers exchanged glances, disbelief, relief, gratitude. Seagal had just saved them from far worse consequences. The leader let out a breath he'd been holding for minutes. And the crowd erupted again. The desert street was quiet again, but the energy of what had just happened lingered like a heavy storm cloud that refused to move. Steven Seagal had walked away calmly, leaving the biker crew and the crowd in stunned silence. Phones were still rolling, capturing every second, every movement, every subtle nuance of the confrontation. Within hours, the video had begun circulating online. Clips of the slap, the swift redirection, the controlled sweep that sent the biker flying, and Seagal's calm, commanding words spread like wildfire across social media. Comments poured in from every corner of the globe. Unbelievable, the calm before the storm. Did you see that? 1 second he's being slapped, the next, he's untouchable. Steven Seagal just taught an entire street a lesson in respect and humility. The story exploded on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Influencers shared it. Martial artists analyzed it. Average people watched with jaws dropped, inspired and terrified all at once. Even traditional news outlets picked it up. Martial arts master handles aggressive biker crew with calm precision. Meanwhile, the biker crew who had started the incident watched the backlash online in disbelief. They had underestimated Seagal. They had underestimated what real discipline looked like. The leader, humbled and remorseful, finally understood the difference between power and intimidation, strength and aggression. Even the biker who had slapped Seagal early on now shared the video, tagging it. Lesson learned. Don't mess with people you don't know. Respect first. Seagal, for his part, didn't gloat. He didn't post about it himself. He didn't need to. The footage and the crowd's reaction had spoken for him. His message had spread organically. Real strength is calm, controlled, and disciplined. You don't need to show off to command respect. People online were inspired. Children shared it with their parents. Martial arts students studied it, and countless fans posted screenshots of Seagal's words. Respect is earned, not forced. Strength is controlled. Learning begins when pride ends. It wasn't just entertainment. It became a lesson, a viral moment with a moral. People were commenting on what it meant to truly lead, how ego can blind, and how patience and restraint can turn a dangerous situation into a teaching moment. The biker leader even faced local consequences, minor legal warnings, and public scrutiny. But Seagal's calm approach had prevented it from escalating into violence or tragedy. The community praised him not just for his skill, but for his restraint. In interviews later, people would recount that day as one of the most unforgettable lessons in humility they had ever witnessed. Seagal didn't just protect himself. He protected everyone else from harm, showing that control is the highest form of power. Finally, the last clip that went viral was Seagal walking down the street, backlit by the setting sun, the biker crew watching silently from a distance. His words, clear and calm, echoed in captions across millions of screens. True strength is silent. True respect is mutual. Never underestimate discipline over aggression. The world watched. Millions typed respect in the comments. Millions more shared it with friends and family. And in that small desert town, an ordinary parking lot had transformed into a classroom for the entire planet. The moral was clear. You can provoke, threaten, or intimidate, but real power comes not from the fist you throw, but from the control you maintain, the patience you practice, and the humility you uphold. And as the sun disappeared over the horizon, one simple truth remained. The man they underestimated had already taught the world a lesson it would never forget.